All right. Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you all. All right. Good to be with you this evening. It's funny, I was just asked a question, and I'll probably use it for our opening. But as we get settled in and get started, we'll go ahead and we'll join palms. And you can repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keeping the palms joined. All right, you can put the palms down. So good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. I was starting to say, I was just asked a question, and I want to kind of rephrase it for here. And it's really about community and connection, and creating a organization or a community that's inclusive. So I think I'll ask you all as a starting question for those who are maybe new to joining us. First of all, welcome. There's a chat box there on your screen somewhere. We'll take a few minutes to get started with the question, and then we'll go into meditation just as we give time for people to jump on here. But for my opening question, and feel free to type as little or as much as you'd like, but I guess my question is very specific to the Dharma Bum Temple, or really any Buddhist or spiritual community. But when you showed up at the temple, or anywhere for that matter, what was it that helped you feel comfortable, if you did feel comfortable? Of course, there's always the chance that you didn't feel comfortable, but chances are you wouldn't be sitting here right now. So my question is, what about the DBT made you feel comfortable or safe, or feel a part of the community? I guess the first question would be, did you? And then if so, what was it? And if not, again, probably you're not going to be here right now. But if for some reason you didn't, I don't know, maybe somebody showed up and didn't feel comfortable the first few times, but kept coming back, and then maybe they did. So that's my question. I'll type it in here. When you showed up and if you all say me, I'm going to end the class right now. So let's go with other options. Thanks, Chuck and Marisa. But when you showed up at the DBT or any spiritual place, what about it made you feel comfortable? I mean, I can't spell right now, so what made you feel connected to the community? there's my question. Um, when you showed up at the DBT or any spiritual place, for those who maybe have never been to the temple, um, what about it made you feel comfortable, and what made you feel connected to the community? Yes, I get it. I'm possibly a big part of that, uh, in a sense that I lead the Intro to Buddhism classes, and those are very well attended. And my focus really is on helping new people feel comfortable, but without just saying me. So I think it's important. I'll give it a minute or two for people to kind of type in, and then we'll go from there. But I think it's important, just kind of looking back at this question, what about the culture within the organization contribute to its overall nature of inclusivity, community, and connection? For me, I think a big part of it is not expecting anyone to be any certain way when they show up. So it's really a part of our kind of core values, which is regardless of what religion, what race, what sexual orientation, what gender identity, what ability, whatever you and wherever you come from and whatever you believe in, we just want you to show up as you are. And as I like to say, that's usually just a big mess. So for me, it's important that we just bring whatever our mess is honestly and authentically and openly, as we are, into the space. And if you create an environment such as the Dharma Bum Temple, where you're really just like a container and you are allowing everybody to show up as they are, without expecting anything from them, without judging them, without critiquing them, helping them, guiding them, exploring their challenges and difficulties, but really just meeting them where they're at and not trying to change them. I always say we're probably the only Buddhist temple in the world that's filled with probably 90%, 95% people that aren't Buddhist. So you're not trying to convert anyone. You're not trying to take anybody from one religion and push them into another. You're just embracing people as they are. So let's see what we have here for some thoughts. The people I encountered were friendly and the group was diverse. Absolutely. I passed over Chuck's and Marissa's, but thank you very much. Felina, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Facebook showed us an event about making sandwiches for the homeless, and we felt we needed to show up. Everyone was kind of welcoming to two complete strangers. We never felt judged. Yeah, I think that's so important. I love it because the homeless outreach, the food redistribution program, for many people, that's the only thing they come to every week when we're open. But the funny thing when you say two complete strangers is that in so many ways we all, at some point in time, we were complete strangers entering the Dharma Bum Temple. So it's really cool that you can take a huge group of absolute strangers and make them feel at home and connected. The warmth and welcoming nature of the attendees, for sure. Jeff, it was a chat we had when we first met many years ago. I remember that chat. I opened up and you did not judge, not about you. It was the non-judgment. For sure, John. And I appreciate that. I think it's always been a big part of my practice to not judge people. I grew up judging and critiquing myself and so many others and passing judgments on people based on, what they looked like or the color of their skin or what their religion was or, what their gender was, identity was, gender identity. So there's so much conditioning that is and was in me to judge people immediately. And so it's a practice really to try to go beyond that judgment. I felt like I was surrounded by like-minded, intelligent, compassionate, curious people. I think it's, the like-mindedness it's interesting because there's so many people who are, and I think the curious word is important there as well, but so many people who are curious about a spiritual path or practice. And the like-mindedness very much is that craving or desire to figure out what we can do to be healthy and happier people. And so that, I think, immediately forms a bond that those people who are there in many ways are so different, but what brings them together is really the same thing, that they're just trying to find a safe space to be there natural, authentic, vulnerable selves. So the lack of complicated traditional observances other than removing shoes and closing the bathroom door went down. Yeah, I mean, those Buddhists who just don't close bathroom doors, they're phenomenal. There's a small little sect of them somewhere in a faraway land that is a wonderful group of people to practice. We are the Buddhist temple that tries to close bathroom doors after we use them. So we're a little strange like that, I guess. But and a big part of us creating the Dharma Bum Temple was really to move away from the ritual and very culturally ingrained practices, the bowing, the chanting, the robes, which for me I have a lot of respect for and I think are really beautiful, but really turned a lot of people off. So sadly, we no longer live in San Diego. Well, we welcome you back. Where are you now, Faylene? I'm just curious. And let's see, I didn't, other than I know the situation, I'd gone to plenty of temples in the past, but once inside, I just went with it. Yeah, definitely. I think that's, I always tell people go to places and just see how you feel when you get there. Sometimes we're comfortable and sometimes we're uncomfortable, but just to kind of show up and once we're there, see how we are. The casual, welcoming environment. Eddie says he had a spiritual connection. I had a lot of great conversations. Chuck, yes, a relaxed environment, no expectations. Felt relaxed immediately. Deep and quiet meditation. Jeff seemed authentic and easy to listen to. Well, I'm authentic just in the fact that I'm a complete mess, just like everybody else. So I think the genuine, authentic approach I try to bring is the fact that, I'm no wiser or kinder or more compassionate than anybody sitting here right now. I'm just a fool working on all my craziness, and I've been around this long enough to try to share it with those who need it. So I appreciate that. Yep, you said it right. Oh, thank you. Vicky, I think your simple message was what kept us coming back for sure. And funny, it's the same simple message. Petra, open-minded people, a welcoming environment, a place to learn more about Buddhism, my sense of humor. I try to make jokes. I think jokes are important. I think humor is important. Those Buddhists, yeah, those crazy Buddhists. I'm telling you, though, there's this crazy Buddhist group out there that doesn't close bathroom doors. Currently in Nebraska, I wanted to come visit this year, but COVID, yeah. Daughter now. Well, congratulations on the daughter. That's beautiful. And we miss you as well. So, all right. So thank you for sharing all of that, kind of some thought-provoking questions. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the meditation practice. Yeah. So a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You won't figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is it working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room or outside. Phones will ring. This is life. And we're working on being quiet and still within all of the chaos. So posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion or chair, it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or the lap, whatever's comfortable. I'll guide us as we begin, and we will settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open, mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually settling into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. And gently guide the attention and focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still and rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference if there is one. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet and calm and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's not from how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. Simply your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external situation. And what we realize from this practice is this is our life. Every single day things happen, we react. More things happen, more reactions. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, dependent origination. This is the basis of his awakening. Now, most of us respond to meditation quietly, peacefully, and still. The question is, how do you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day? And for me, going back to my question earlier, I think this moment right here is the reason that communities build. Because regardless of what your day was like, regardless of where you are, or what you come from, or what you believe in, and where you think you're going, all of these stories and things that we create, there's this moment right here where most people slow down. And in that moment of slowing down, you, at least when we gather in person and even here, you feel connected with others. Because for a few moments, you made your life not all about you. Which is interesting because you were the one who just sat and did nothing. But your whole day is spent trying to do things, trying to build, trying to create, trying to gain, trying to win, trying to prove, trying to get somewhere. And for me, this practice of meditation is the art of getting nowhere and doing nothing. And when we all do that collectively, there's a sense of calm that we get to experience together. And I think that sense of calm that we experience is what keeps communities healthy. And it's what keeps people coming back to whatever space it is you go to. That's the practice. It's not complicated. Sit, breathe, be aware of your thoughts. That's it. So I'd like to use the rest of the time this evening. For those who are new, again, welcome. I always prefer to address questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you all are sitting with. So again, there's a chat box on the screen there. And feel free to type in your question or thoughts, and I will respond. And again, we'll use the rest of the evening for that. Or feel free, if you still have thoughts from the earlier question, you could chime into that as well. Questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. Yes, during my time at DBT, someone once said that the act of sitting silent together is really quite intimate and connects us in a way that our regular and more active lives does not. Yeah, for sure. Um, it reminds me of a story from a day of silence retreat, and two people were tasked during the silent cleaning period to clean the refrigerator. And afterwards, and these were two basic strangers, and this was their job together. And afterwards, one of them said that they had never felt so deeply connected to somebody they didn't know through complete silence and only the act of cleaning the refrigerator. So I thought it was a beautiful practice. And I think you're right, Marisa, or the idea of behind whoever said that, that there is that sense of quiet and stillness. You sit on meditation cushions, or you sit in chairs, or you sit in the room, and very often you are next to a complete stranger. Even though you're, maybe surrounded by a lot of people and see regularly, there's almost always someone there for the first time, as you know. So, as someone said earlier, a lot of strangers, and that silence can be really beautiful. Let's see here. What does it mean to have a beginner's? Do you mind? Is the end of that question a beginner's mind? The Maybe your question got cut off, but what does it mean to have a beginner's mind? So my favorite book that I always talk about is Zen Mind, Beginner Mind, and these are the teachings of Shunryu Suzuki. Yes, mind, beginner's mind. The idea that you are experiencing everything for the first time as if you've never experienced it before, which in reality is the truth. So even if you do something day in and day out and it's part of your routine, so let's just say brushing your teeth, right? So you brush your teeth every single day and you think, well, I've done this before, but the moment that you're brushing your teeth tomorrow, you've never done that before. In that moment, in that space, your body has changed physically, mentally, emotionally. Even though the act of brushing your teeth may be the same thing, you've never done that before in that moment. And so the idea behind beginner's mind is that every moment you're experiencing as if it's brand new. And there's that one of my favorite quotes. Hang on, I'll pull it up so I don't ruin it. But it's about the expert's mind and the beginner's mind. Possibilities. Hang on. Maybe somebody else can quote it for me. I don't want to ruin it. But I think it's a perfect example that I'll touch on, but I just want to read it exactly. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. So that beginner's mind, anything is possible. Again, I'll read the quote exactly. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. So when we think we are an expert at something, we think we've perfected something, we think we know how to do something, it really limits us. But in that beginner's mind, anything is possible. There you go, Chuck. Thank you. It's funny. Someone told the history of the Dharma Bump Temple the other day to the college group, and one of them asked me afterwards, because the history is getting quite long and a lot of stories, and it's really hard to sum it up in a 2-hour story. But they asked me afterwards. One of the questions was, was planning all of this really difficult? And I had to laugh because I said, I haven't planned anything. For me, the Dharma Bum Temple and the creation of it with, those from the beginning and now is you're not really planning it. You're just experiencing it. And sure, you guide it as it goes. But beginner's mind is an experience of the present moment as it is. And that just repeats over and over and over again. Now, I want to be very careful here. I touch on this a lot. So, for example, if you put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to burn yourself, right? There is benefits clearly from safety perspective and many other reasons to know that that stove is hot. Don't put your hand on it. So beginner's mind doesn't mean that you just become oblivious to things as they are, but having a beginner's mind allows you to experience something in a way that you've never experienced it before, but still with the knowledge with regards to things that could harm you, that awareness, that mindfulness, that attention to what's going on. So hopefully that's helpful with beginner's mind. Again, for me, to sum it up, it's just experiencing each moment as it is, as if you've never experienced it before. So you can just appreciate, you can just sit back and kind of watch and appreciate, this. I mean, this is incredible. I'm sitting here on a Tuesday night with a bunch of you leading a meditation, talking about Buddhism. And I could say I've done this every Tuesday night for the last 10, 12 years. But the real approach is I've never done this before. This is the first time this has ever happened. And I think beginner's mind allows you to not take things for granted. It allows you to not get tired of things. It allows you to just show up and be present with life as it is. Years ago, it was a school teacher, was asking about just being completely exhausted working with students. And so I referenced beginner's mind that you have to show up every day, brand new and fresh, ready to go. So Zazen, explain Zazen. No, I cannot explain it, but I can. The word Zazen, Zen is meditation. The word Zen simply translates to meditation. I laugh when people say Zen meditation because it just means meditation. But Zen comes from, or Chan in Chinese comes from jnana, which is knowledge, or gnosis. It's to know. It's an experience. It's tied into the earlier question. Za is to sit. So Zazen is simply seated meditation. Very specific Buddhist practice. Zen Buddhism, to do Zazen is to sit in meditation and experience each precious moment as it arises. That is Zazen. I've been attending Jodo Shinshu Temple here in LA, and I've had missed that sitting practice. So far, powerful when done in a group. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's good. I'm glad that you've been able to, John, to get up there to a temple and to sit. And our dear friends here at Buddhist Temple San Diego, same part of the Pure Land Jodo Shinshu tradition. And about 5 years ago now, I'm guessing, Smitty, who's a dear friend of mine, and she leads a lot there, they weren't doing any meditation at all. And so it's a lot of the chanting, reciting the sutra, etc. Beautiful practice, but kind of based on how I had done things and what we do at Dharma Bum Temple, she started leading I think she called it 1, 2, 3 Buddhism, but basically kind of this idea of Buddhism for beginners, and also doing the meditation practice, because so many people come into Buddhism nowadays really need and want and are looking for meditation. And within that tradition, it hasn't been a big part of it. So let's see here. Beginner's mind, at the beginner's mind, there are possibilities. Yes, thank you again, Chuck. Let's see, like chai tea. Definitely like chai tea. It's exactly like chai tea. That's what I was talking about. I'm trying to distill it, or how do you guide someone towards an egoless path or a Buddhist path without asserting your own ego on the other person? So I talk about this very often, which is, there's really two questions, or there's a lot going on there. But the question of egoless path or Buddhist path, I'm very cautious with encouraging people to try to, uh, you know, put someone on a Buddhist path. Um, we have all come to this practice or this path at a point in our lives when it made sense to us. Now, it's one thing if somebody says, "Hey, I'm interested in Buddhism and I want to learn meditation or some form of Buddhist practice," and then, of course, it's easy to introduce them to different places or ways they can learn. But most likely, you're probably talking about someone who's not really interested that you just think could benefit from it. And if that's the case, it never works. Very rarely. So, you know, first of all, to tell someone you want to introduce them to an egoless path, if they don't know anything about Buddhism, isn't going to work. Uh, our egos are huge. And even if we practice going beyond the ego, it's still this sense of self and recognition of the ego that is trying to go beyond the ego. And then if you're trying to get somebody else to understand that and practice that who doesn't know Buddhism, you're just going to fail completely. My suggestion always is for people who see loved ones, and very often this is common. It's a very similar kind of dynamic in the recovery community. People battling addiction, where they see people they know and love with addictions and they want to help them. The person has to make the effort themselves. So you can tell them when a meeting is, or you can tell them when meditation is, or you can tell them when their Buddhist class is, but they have to really show up and want to do it on their own. And with this stuff, it's the same. You can tell them, "Hey, I've been practicing meditation. I've been going to these Buddhist classes. It's helping me. I'm becoming more aware of my ego or my anger or my greed." You can kind of share it from a very personal perspective. But I'm sure for just about all of us here that there was a time in your life where Buddhism was of no interest to you whatsoever. And if somebody walked up to you and said, "Hey, you really should check this out," that doesn't work. It wouldn't have worked with us, and it probably wouldn't work with them. Most people don't like being told what they need to do or where they should go. So it's great to have the love and care for people and want to help them and want to help them get on a healthy path. But all you can really do is introduce it gently. And then when their karma, when their causes and conditions are ripened for them to explore meditation or Buddhist teachings, they will. But they're on their own. Good questions. What are your thoughts about having a teacher to learn more about Buddhism? How do we find one? I know that you say people at DBT are practitioners, not monks or nuns, etc. So let me hang on one second. How does metta meditation work? What's interesting in practicing metta? And when a Christian prays for the well-being of others, love it. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there weren't any references to anything I was missing there. Having a teacher. So I think so often people would say to me at the temple, "Hey, I'm looking for a teacher." And I'll tell them, if you go to Metaforest Monastery, 45 minutes or so, an hour north of San Diego, you can meet Ajahn Jeff, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who's a wonderful teacher. And people will often say to me, "It's so far." I'm just like, look, if you don't want to drive 45 minutes to an hour to find a Buddhist teacher, then you're not ready for a Buddhist teacher. Most people I know, again, this isn't a personal reference, just in general, most people I know who look for Buddhist teachers are really just looking for someone to tell them like what to do. And, from my experience with Buddhism, from a practice in Taiwan, when you have a Buddhist master, you have your direct teacher. I mean, they are your master, you are the disciple, and you do what they tell you to do. I think in the lay tradition that doesn't carry over so well. I think, unfortunately, Buddhism in the West has become this kind of pay for service type of thing where, someone will be your teacher, but it's going to cost you. You're going to have to pay for their 8-week course or their 2-year course just so you can get your certificate and then turn around and charge people later. You literally show me the Buddhist teachers out there that are really doing stuff for free. There's not that many of them. There are, I think, having a Buddhist teacher to some extent is very important. If you find a good teacher that you trust and you're comfortable with and is very genuine and authentic, I'll also say that, the Buddha's last teaching before he died was they were worried about who was going to teach him or who was going to teach them after he was gone. And what he said was, I've left you the teachings, be a light unto yourself. So, and strive on with diligence. So his last teaching was, you've got all the teachings, you just need to practice them. I just don't think Buddhist teachers translates well into a Western non-monastic culture. If you're a monk or nun, it's a whole different world with a master. If you're a lay person looking for a Buddhist teacher, to me, it ends up being more like therapy, and like having a counselor who's going to give you some Buddhist books to read and then discuss your problems. To me, that sounds like a therapist and a counselor, which is all very important, but very different from a Buddhist teacher. Like I said, there are some great Buddhist teachers out there. But most of them you got to pay for them. And I just am personally not a fan of paying someone to be a Buddhist teacher. So, and yes, I do always say we're not teachers, we're just practitioners, because that's the truth. We practice as individuals, and then we show up with you all and we share what we practice. So good question. I'll close with kind of these last couple. How does metta meditation work? What's interesting practicing metta, and when a Christian prays for the well-being of others? It's a great question. And I think my easy out is that I'm not a metta practitioner. I'm that, mean Zen person. I would definitely say drop in on a Wednesday night with Alex, who leads the loving kindness, the metta meditation practice. I would ask him that. But I can touch on it very briefly. My personal opinion is that there's, I think, a lot of similarities in metta meditation, in, Christian prayer, in even just kind of this idea of sending Tonglen, which is a Tibetan practice, of sending and receiving compassion and loving kindness and things like that. I think there's a lot of similarities. A lot of it, to me, really comes down to the intention of our prayers and our actions. So, I think it's very specific to who the person is practicing the metta meditation, who the person is that's practicing the Christian prayer, and how they're doing it. I don't know that there's really a blanket way to say that, one is this way and one is that way. But I think a lot of similarities. I think prayers, in whatever way we can send them, are beautiful. But as most of you know, if you've shown up here, the prayers are wonderful, but the actions are really important as well. So, but yeah, I would definitely ask that to Alex on a Wednesday. Thanks. I'm often asked about it by fellow members. Beautiful. Thank you, John. Can you go to that monastery? Metaforest. Type out that monastery there. Oh, and Marisa got it. Thank you. Yeah, Metaforest, Valley Center, definitely. So it's a beautiful monastery. I wouldn't go there now. We're out in the world. They're not. So from a safety perspective, I would not be traveling to a Buddhist monastery right now. But yeah, you can typically go there anytime, and it's a beautiful place. So good questions, my friends. With that, it's just about 8 o'clock, so we will close. I will join Palms. Do you have any suggestions for service while the situation is happening? By service, do you mean community service? I would say just look online, community service, and see what you can find. There's a lot to do virtually. I know our college group put a whole bunch of stuff together that you can do virtually. So I think if you just do some Google searches, my focus as we roll into the new year, I'm guessing still closed from Dharma Bum Temple, is we will be probably more prepared now to start the new year in this closed mindset, and we'll be working on setting up more virtual community service opportunities. When we closed in March, we just were kind of riding it out with everybody else. So So I don't have anything specific for you yet, but there's a lot of opportunities out there just virtually. You can volunteer. So just dig around a little bit. Thank you all. Good questions, Theodore. I appreciate it. So we'll join palms. We'll do a transfer of merits. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. So again, a couple quick announcements before you head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up 14 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. So those of us who lead, as referenced earlier, we're not monks or nuns or gurus or masters or teachers. We're just practitioners. So we do our best to share our unenlightened understanding of Buddhist teachings with those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays and Saturdays are on YouTube here. Everything else we do is on Zoom. Recovery Sangha, Family Sangha, hopefully will start up in the new year. The teenage group, college group. So there's always something happening every morning, Monday through Friday. Just show up and sit. I know it's difficult. A lot of us are looking at screens all day long, but connecting still with others, even just in this manner, I think is important. So please be safe, stay home as much as possible, wear a mask. I think it's a great bodhisattva practice to really in making sure that we engage with what's happening in this pandemic by very much disengaging and allowing others to be safe. So thank you all for being here. I wish you well. If I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. So be safe.